So you have a decision to make, and it's a tough one. I'm making this video to help you decide whether the Galaxy S24 Ultra or the Z Fold 6 is the better phone for you personally. Both phones have very distinct advantages in different areas, and it depends on how much weight these differences carry in your mind. So before you go ahead and burn your bank account to the ground like I did,
this is fine.
Let's run through some of the pros and cons and keep a score sheet as we go through this video. Add a +1 for either phone whenever you feel it has a slight advantage, and a +2 for a distinct advantage. And then by the end of the video, you will truly know which Galaxy phone is the right one for you. So join me and let's fulfill your destiny. So even though the user interface seems identical, here are a few advantages and exclusives that the Fold 6 has. So while you can split screen on the Galaxy S24 Ultra and the display is large enough to accommodate app pairs on the vertical axis, the Z Fold 6 is better equipped for this, as on the inner display you can have app pairs side by side or vertically, and even create app trios. Another little edge for the Z Fold is the ability to use flex mode, which can give you added tools when navigating through websites and spreadsheets and things like that. And another significant advantage for the Fold, based on the fact that it does have two displays, is you gain the ability to use both screens simultaneously with tools like the Samsung Interpreter app, for example. Although right now the use cases are pretty limited, this still is a pretty big deal. And here's a little side note to the Samsung software team. If you see this, let's get a few more flex game modes on the go, because battleships could work fantastically here. Also Connect 4, maybe some card games or some board games. You know, the kind of fun things that could work on the cover display and inner display at the same time. Now there is one more very powerful advantage that the two displays give to Z Fold 6 users, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. But for now, let's talk about power. It's easy to assume the S24 Ultra would take a quick win here because it's only got one screen to power, and the battery capacity is 5,000 mAh compared to the Z Fold 6's 4,400 mAh. But in the real world, having actually switched from the S24 Ultra to the Z Fold 6 for these videos, I've not at any point in time been disappointed with the Fold's battery life. It's never let me down at the end of the day. However, I do remember when I started using the Galaxy S24 Ultra for the first time, I was thoroughly impressed with the battery life. So I guess it's very good battery on the Z Fold versus great battery on the Ultra. But there is a big win here for the Galaxy S24 Ultra. It is the charging speed. The Z Fold 6 supports 25-watt charging, which can get you from 0 to 50 in 30 minutes. And this is good, but the S24 Ultra supports 45 watts charging, with some users reporting getting nearly 70% in 30 minutes when using the super fast charging mode that it has. Okay, this is one of the most significant differences, the displays. So let's start with the side-by-side differences between the Fold in its phone form factor versus the S24. It is wide versus thin, and there are some advantages to the narrow screen. For example, being able to easily reach right across the entire width of the screen. So using the phone one-handed is a plus for the Fold's cover display. However, if you happen to have thicker fingers, typing in the traditional style may be a little bit tricky due to the narrow keyboard. That's why, in my opinion, swipe typing is a necessary skill you must learn if you plan to be a Z Fold 6 owner, and it is easier than you think. Now, something that I love about the Galaxy S24 Ultra's display is the Gorilla Armor Glass. It's an upgraded version of the Victus 2 used on the Z Fold 6, and at this point in time, it is exclusive to the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But what I like about it so much is the anti-reflective qualities. It's such a game changer. However, that goes away as soon as you put a screen protector on the phone, so keep that in mind. It's kind of a gift and a curse in a way. And I had hoped that Samsung would have brought this to the Galaxy Z Fold 6, but unfortunately not. Maybe we'll see it on the Z Fold 7. So that's a clear win for the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and the spec sheets do reveal some deeper differences worth taking note of, especially if you like pixel peeping and nitpicking.
I understood that reference.
So the Fold's cover screen versus the Ultra's one and only display is a no contest, sort of like a man fighting in a women's boxing tournament. It does seem unfair, but there is an elephant in the room for the Z Fold 6, and this is where it really sweeps the legs of the S24 Ultra.
Sweep the leg.
It is of course the big display. This is kind of like the Z Fold's nuclear weapon in this battle. The size advantage is clearly in play when consuming content or working with productivity tools such as spreadsheets or graphic design apps. And if you're the type of person who will make the most of this, that should definitely be reflected on your score sheet. But something to consider is, of course, the crease.
You have a problem with that?
But wait, don't count out the Ultra just yet when it comes to productivity, because it's got a trick up its sleeve, quite literally. So with the tap of the button, just like a Bond ejector seat, you have the S24 Ultra's built-in superpower. Of course, it is the S Pen. Well, what can it do, I hear you say? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I did make an entire video highlighting those features. I'll link that at the end. And yes, you can get the S Pen case for the Z Fold 6 also, but at the time of this video, it ain't cheap, and it will add extra weight and thickness to what is already a thick phone when folded up. And on that topic, you must weigh the pros and cons of the size and weight and what you actually get in exchange for those compromises. If you're coming from a traditional regular sized bar phone, either phone will feel like a heavyweight because they are big phones. And even though this version of the Z Fold is lighter than it's ever been, it is on the heavier side at 239 grams. The S24 Ultra is lighter than the Fold, but surprisingly, it's not actually that much lighter. There's only a 5-gram difference between them. Some say it's noticeable, some say it isn't. But the big difference is the thickness. The Z Fold is 12.1mm thick compared to the 8.6mm on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Of course, this story changes when it unfolds. Now, due to the fact that this aspect will not affect how the phones perform, it may not be a game changer for you, but it is worth noting the design aspects and materials used on these two titans are different. Due to the folding form factor, particularly because of the hinge, the Fold 6 has a slightly lower ingress protection rating than the Ultra, with the Fold being IP48 rated and the Ultra being IP68. And just so you understand what this means, the first number in the IP rating represents dust and the second number represents liquid, and the higher the number, the better the protection. Now check this out, Samsung have used their Armor Aluminium on the Z Fold 6, which is more robust than most phone metals out there, but a stronger, more premium titanium is used on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Like I said before, this doesn't change the user experience much, but it does make the S24 Ultra more robust and scratch resistant without a case and a screen protector. However, one losing battle for both phones regardless will always be phone versus pavement, and also phone versus jerry-rig everything. So check out the link in my description if you want an unsponsored case recommendation from me. Now the shooters. Both phones use the same Snapdragon image signal processing and AI engines. There are some significant differences in the hardware though, and substantial advantages on both sides. The S24 Ultra's primary camera is better quality than the Z Fold's. The Z Fold actually uses the same sensor seen in the regular model of the S24. And the question is, will you notice a difference? Well, you tell me.
Let me see.
Another advantage for the Ultra is its incredible periscope zoom. Now this might seem gimmicky to some, but others may find it a helpful tool. For example, the last time I used this to solve a problem was at an airport where I sat down for a coffee and I didn't want to leave my seat to go and check the boarding time in case someone nicked it. So I didn't. I used the periscope zoom to read the boarding time for the flight, and there we go, problem solved. Now, here's a huge advantage for the Z Fold 6. It is its selfie capabilities, as you have the option to take selfies with the best cameras on the device. And while the selfie camera on the S24 Ultra is good, it cannot compete against the trio of cameras on the back of the Z Fold 6. So now you've got a good idea of most of the pros and cons, and hopefully you've tallied up your score sheet so far. Now let's talk about money. Currently the 256 gig version of the S24 Ultra in the UK on Samsung's official website is $12.50. It's not cheap, but it might seem like it when compared to the $17.99 for the Fold 6 256 gig model. That's a 550 quid gap. So this is one more very important factor that you need to throw into the equation. How deep are your pockets? Is 550 just a drop in the ocean for you? And if it is, Lend us some money, will ya? My wallet's still on fire after those last Samsung pre-orders. So which is it? Which is your pound for pound champ? How did these two flagship Galaxy devices stack up on your score sheets? Which one was the victor and why? And if you want to check out that S Pen video, or if you have your eye on the Z Flip and you want to know what that phone can do, there are 2 thumbnails on screen right now worth checking out. I appreciate you guys for watching this one. If you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man, and I will see you in the next one. Don't be late.